Forgive my voice. I've got a dose of man flu. It's not just staying too long at the Marlena Bar last night. We have another illness on our panel as well, unfortunately. Peter Verhoeven from PricelineBooking.com is actually much more seriously ill than me. He's suffering from pneumonia. So that's a pretty good excuse not to be here. But we have a replacement, so we have a full panel lineup for you. Now, we're going to try and do something a little bit different for this session rather than just sit through yet another boring panel, so we just go along rows and just hear the same old, same old. We're going to try and initiate a little bit of discussion. Normally, you just see violent agreements, and hopefully you won't have violent disagreement, but we will have a little bit of disagreement. I'm going to start things off. My name is Andrew Sangster. I'm editor and owner of the Hotel Analyst Group. We're a business-to-business publisher. We specialize in doing information, subscription information, and we try and my aim really as a journalist is just to try and help people think and to think about the nature of the business they're in. And to these ends, today I'm going to put forward a thesis about how we see the hotel industry and how we see the hotel industry developing. And this is the notion that hotel companies, the traditional global major hotel brands, so we have Accor up here on stage, but we would include Hilton, Intercontinental, Choice Hotels up here on stage, Hyatt, you know the list. The contention we have is that their days as a distribution platform, as a vehicle for reaching out to the guest is over. And the reason it's over is because of the power of the online players. Their marketing power is so much superior. They have so much more firepower. Just in terms of round numbers, we have Cyril from Expedia here, but they're spending $2.5 billion US a year on their marketing. Priceline, if we'd have had Peter here, are spending a similar level. They are sort of number one and perhaps number three in terms of Google's highest spenders. No hotel company comes anywhere near to spending that volume. So our contention is that that game is over. So what is the game for hotel brands? Is it finished? Is it dead? Well, no. How we see hotel brands going forward is that they're now going to be product brands, a productization of the industry. And the hotel brands are going to be sitting on the shelves of the online players, the retailers. So Accor is a Heinz, Intercon is a Nike, and sitting on the shelves of Aldi or Marks and Spencer's, or I don't know what your favorite retail brand is, Cyril. But that's the future now in terms of how the distribution platforms are going to play out. That's my statement, that's my contention. I'm going to ask the panel now to respond to that. And I'm going to start with Vivek Badranath. Now, he's Deputy CEO of Accor, to my immediate right. He was brought in, he has a telecoms background. He has a grip on what's happening in the technology industry. And we are seeing already huge signs of change within the Accor group. I was at an event at the end of last year when Sebastian Bazin got up and did a Steve Jobs. He was there with the black polo neck, with the jeans, barefoot, talking that whole tech talk. And that's just a demonstration of how seriously Accor are taking it. But Vivek, I think you're still very challenged.
I would like to disagree firmly and violently with your statement, because otherwise this panel is no fun. And I'd like to just put it back into one simple perspective, and I'll take a parallel with an industry that I left now a year and a day ago, so very soon I'll stop making these analogies. It's true that the firepower, and in particular the very heavy spend on what is per se an inflationary channel, which is the web. Inflationary because it is governed by a system of auctions, which is probably the most potentially inflationary system you can find in economics. That spend is huge. Are we building a digital plan because we think that by putting numbers on a page, we can make them look like 2 billion or 3 billion worth of AdWords spend? Certainly not. But for us, that spend is largely or should be largely, especially considering its magnitude, targeted towards getting new customers. We obviously see that returning customers, loyal customers, those who have our loyalty card, who know our product, and who've identified our product, in a vast, vast majority of them book direct because they know our brand. And it is about the brand and the location and the product that drives their choice. So we have a very strong interest in the performance of the online travel agents. We love for them to spend a lot of money as long as they don't rise the prices on our own keywords. But we certainly love them to spend money to get new people into the travel industry, traveling to places where they wouldn't have traveled otherwise, getting to know properties that they wouldn't have found by themselves sitting on the other side of the world. But that is only the part on first-timers. And that is, the hotel chains don't deserve to have a role in distribution if they don't make the effort to manage their channels. And that is to choose and work with the right channel for the right type of customers. So the approach that we took over the last 12 months as we built the digital plan was to take the whole customer journey. And certainly at the discovery stage, the OTAs have a huge role to play, and they do. They do every day, and every day more than the previous day. But on the other hand, for a customer who knows our brand, and as soon as that relationship starts the day the customer has chosen to come to our hotels, then it is our duty to manage that relationship very intimately and very clearly into the hotel through digital interaction, through the person-to-person interaction, which is the core quality of the hotel industry, so that that relationship is a direct relationship. And that's pretty much the whole spirit of the digital plan that we rolled out. So really, we have a role to play. The online channels are very powerful growth engines for this industry when they're well used, and it's our duty to use them well, is what I'd say.
So if we're measuring how successful you are at this, Vivek, the share of OTAs shouldn't be increasing. Is that right?
No. The first thing that we need to make sure is that all our returning customers use our apps more and more. If the share of OTAs is actually a share on a bucket of customers who may or may not have the same need. So I'm not quite certain that the metric of the share of OTAs is the right one. The number of new customers that OTAs bring you is the real metric. So the parallel I wanted to make was mobile telephony in the years when devices were very heavily subsidized. Operators spent huge amounts of money on the channel being those shops, the phone house, phones for you, and all those high street retailers, subsidizing phones, because getting a new customer is a battle. And it's a battle that requires huge funds. And I think this industry is discovering how expensive it is to interest a new person to your brand or to your product. But that's part one of customer lifetime value. It's the acquisition. And the hoteliers and our distribution tools are there also strongly, of course, to promote our product. And we'd like to get as much of the space of or the mind share directly, but certainly also to be very focused on the retention, the return, the sharing of opinions that enhances returning behaviors and patterns.
Okay, so just help me out here, one final point before I move on. If I'm writing about this and I'm trying to understand it, what metric should I be using for how successful you are at retaining your customers? Because as I'm looking at the situation right now, I see an ever-increasing share going to the OTAs. So, I mean, I don't think Accor discloses, but
it's true.
IHG do disclose,
right.
And they said that their Q4 results that it's gone from 11% 2013 to 13% in 2014, and it seems to me there's an inexorable march in terms of the share being taken by OTAs. What metric am I going to use to say that you're being successful in executing your ability to retain the customers and switch them from being a first-timer the second time they're coming to your sites?
Andrew, I think your job's getting tougher because you're going to have several metrics at the same time. Yes, you might want to look at this one in terms of the intensity and the role of the OTAs to acquire new subs, new customers, new guests. but at the same time, you need to be looking at the percentage of loyal customers and how much use of our mobile tools or websites across their stays they are actually having, which is a measurement of their involvement with the brands, because that's the other side of the coin, and not looking at both at the same time only paints a partial picture.
Okay. Let's go to Cyril now. Cyril Rank from Expedia. Cyril, are you just about introducing the first-time customers, or are you going to be the retailer of the future for hotel rooms?
Well, I think it's interesting. I unfortunately have to strongly agree with what Vivek said. I'm really disappointed.
I didn't pay him for this one.
Yeah. Really disappointed, Andrew, that we can't get into a fun fight. But I would like to elaborate a little bit on why we think the role of OTA for branded chains like Accor or Choice is to bring new customers. If you look at the fragmentation of customers in recent years, it hasn't ceased to increase. It has fragmented by device, and you know how mobile is picking up, multi-shapes of mobile, we have to invest for that. It has been fragmented by points of origin. We have new countries providing new customers in Asia, in Latin America, et cetera. China is a big one. So becoming relevant to all these customers in all the origin countries and in all the devices that they want to use and in all the channels that they want to use. You have private sale channels, you have group buy channels, you have just a lot of different things. You have Facebook, you have Twitter, all the touch points that a chain or a hotel has to work if they want to attract new customer. It's crazy. And it's like 10x versus 5 years ago or even 3 years ago. So if you think about, from a hotel perspective, how much money you would have to invest in marketing and in technology to be able to attract that new set of customers, it would be humongous. So our role in the industry is actually to provide that reach for our chain partners and our individual hotel partners so that they can touch that fragmenting demand, which is not ceasing to get more fragmented and growing also. And I think the key point here is it's growing, so OTAs are bringing the new types of customers to hotel, and then the job of hotels is actually to retain them and make them repeat through their own channel. So I would actually put forward that the way the industry should look at OTA distribution cost, and I used to be on the hotel side, so I know what I'm talking about, is an offset of marketing and technology spend. Now, if the industry was not paying the OTA commissions, it would have to invest in very, very heavy marketing and very, very heavy technology to be able to attract these new customers. So I think we all have a role to play, and the chains need to use technology to delight customers and make them repeat directly.
Cyril, my problem with the argument you're putting forward, which is you're the pal of the hoteliers, why have you got a loyalty scheme? If not, the aim is to get the repeat bookings going through your channels. Why do you bother with a loyalty scheme?
Because we're all in the game of repeating, right? It's cheaper. Now, you were gentle enough to mention that we're spending $2.5 billion to attract new customers. We'd love to spend a little more and make Google a little less rich. So if we can do that, that's by generating repeat customer traffic on our own website through our loyalty scheme. But I think I would separate the customers that are by design and by nature indifferent to brands, and they just have a destination and they want to have a selection and then pick the most attractive product, versus the customers that actually respond to the brand assets and the brand special proposition and would repeat directly through the direct website.
It's not always been a world of harmony between Expedia and hotel brands, and I think our next panelist is proof of that. Carl Oldsberg, now at Choice Hotels in the US, but he was with Choice Nordic. And in Scandinavia, 6 of the major hotel groups delisted from Expedia because they were so upset at their relationship. And that was over a year, wasn't it? You were delisted from that because of that. Carl, perhaps you could explain how you see the environment, whether you agree with me, and why you took the action you took.
So I guess I would agree and disagree. So I definitely agree that the marketing and technology spend race has been won by the OTAs by far. I think we're spending about $400 million on a global basis, but that's nothing compared to the Expedia and the Pricelines. But I would also disagree with you that we lost the battle. You painted a pretty dark picture there, but I think 15 years ago we had a hard time to reach out to our customers, but now there's been a marketplace and multiple channels where we can reach our customers. So it's a totally different situation, which is great and that we benefit from. So now to your remarks regarding the Scandinavian region, I guess it's been an evolution of the relationship between OTAs and the hoteliers. So first we gave away all these gifts, rate parity, last room availability, high commissions, and so forth. And then we realized that was pretty naive and not too great for our business, right? So we wanted that back, and then we became enemies. And now I guess we're frenemies. And I guess I'm hoping that down the line we're going to be friends and have a great partner relationship. So for Scandinavia, we realized that that development had taken place in the US market and Central Europe. We didn't want to see that same development in the Scandinavian region, and we were kind of the tail end of that development. So we decided that we had basically 4 things that were of a major concern, and that was rate parity, last room availability, the unethical search, and high commission. And we presented that to not only Expedia, but in general to all the OTAs. Some OTAs were willing to work with us, and other OTAs were not. So what happened was that we were left few of the major OTAs, or were kicked out, depending on how you look at it. And it took about a year, and then after that we gathered around the negotiation table again, and I think Cyril was a part of that, and I think we can both sit here now and say that we're in a better place, and I guess we were humbled by this process, and I guess see our different needs, and now we're complementing each other instead of battling each other.
So just to be clear, in terms of the compromise that was reached, my understanding was very little change happened in terms of commission levels. I didn't think there was a huge shift in terms of commission levels. There was some agreement in terms of search terms. They wouldn't search on your specific brand names, but otherwise it's pretty much business as usual.
So obviously I can't give you the details of the terms and conditions. But let me say that we presented our needs that we have, and we have needs of Cyril alluded to, reaching customers that are international customers and booking on different devices. And the OTAs listened to those needs and kind of changed the business model accordingly. So I think we're in a much better place where we have greater control of the distribution. And at the same time, we have a different approach to the OTAs today than we used to have.
When you say greater control, that's something you're not doing the merchant model anymore. Is that what you mean?
Well, so Expedia and other OTAs are rolling out different models, and that model gave us a better control. Let's put it that way.
So it's an agency basis you've shifted into?
Different for different OTAs. So, but I guess it's public information. All know that Expedia is rolling out the ETP model, so the Expedia Travel Preference Model, and that's certainly a part of that.
Okay. Vivek, were you bursting to get in there?
Yeah, no, just to say that the concentration of the OTA market is real. I mean, it's and I don't know of any market where 2 significant players own in a way across their brands such a high proportion, above 80% of a market, where some level of regulation in front of a market structure where you have lots of independent hotels and a few chains doesn't require some level of tussle and pull and push. So that's just the nature of the subject. And we are at a point where I think as mobile is coming in, as the numbers are moving and the spends continue to increase faster than the growth of the market, which is the underlying all this is the fact that the growth of Expedia and Booking is significantly faster than the growth of the pie itself. So at one point, this does require adjustment, regulation, and maybe some level of debate, which is why this regulation question is so much on top of the table in Europe today.
Can I disagree? Can I disagree for a second on the definition of the market? So the market is the travel market. It's a $1.3 billion market, and if you add Expedia and Priceline, we're actually less than 10% of the market. So, let's be sure that we understand what the travel market is. Most of the distribution happens through the direct channels, and then there are tour operators, there's corporate travel, et cetera. So OTAs is part of the market. It's not the market.
Okay.
And to that point, I think when we're talking about who's winning the battle, the guys that I feel really bad for are the many independent hotels out there that don't have the time, the knowledge, or the technology to really navigate through that landscape. And so in terms of that, I guess as a franchisor, that's a win for us because then we can offer that knowledge and competence.
Okay. I'd like to bring in now Dalian Wanda, and Ilya Pupa at the end there is going to talk about that. And Dalian, for those who don't know, is about to become the world's biggest real estate company. It's now number 2. But rather than have me explain who they are, I think you're just going to give a couple of minutes on
Sure.
Dalian Wanda.
Yeah. Well, Wanda Group is a commercial real estate company. We are already the second biggest in the world. And I'm representing the Wanda Hotels and Resorts, what is just founded in 3 years ago. So, and we are owning 71 hotels. We have 37 contracted out hotels. We are working together with Hyatt Group, with IHG, with Starwood, with Accor, and with Hilton Group. And in future, for sure, also with other new groups and other established groups. And we are also building up our own management group since the 3 years since we are established. And we have opened 34 5-star category hotels in the last 3 years in China, mainly in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th-tier cities in China. So, and we're going to open another 14 hotels in 2015, 26 in 2016, and about 30 hotels in 17. And we will be going abroad with about 15 to 20 properties in 2018 in all the key cities. So, and that's shortly to talk about our company and to look at the OTAs, of course, as a young brand, like we are as Wanda Hotels and Resorts. For us, it's very important to have the OTAs, especially in the 3rd and 4th-tier cities, because who knows about the 3rd and 4th-tier cities? Who knows our brand? So far, actually, nobody. I believe a lot of Chinese customers already know us, but we first have to establish our brand. We are not Accor, we are not Starwood, we are not IHG, who have a long history and enough time and enough money already of doing the branding and everything like this. So, for example, like Expedia, who is working together with Elong in China, is one of our big partners. But you also have, for example, Ctrip, who is working with Priceline, who is even a bigger partner for our group. And for the time being, we have to work with those partners together. That especially for our customers who are coming from the big cities, who are coming from abroad, who are booking over online. But as I already mentioned to you before, Andrew, as most of our hotels are in the 5-star sector, in China, it's still all about relationship. It's still about the contact, about the feeling between the people. So many of our bookings are still done by local negotiated rates, and that means it's a person-to-person contact. That means the people are calling the sales manager or they're calling the sales director and booking their room and saying, here, I need a room tonight, or 2 or 3. I have a MICE group. And it's all the personal matter what is happening there, because I'm taken care of that I'm going to have my food plate in the room, or I'm taken care of that the general manager is going to be there to greet my VIP tonight. And that is, of course, what you cannot maybe have when you're booking over a booking agent. And that is, I think, what is still in China. It will take a couple of more years that more and more people are going to use even more OTA or digital booking. So I think we are still another 5 to 10 years away from this. I believe the 90th generation, which we call the Z generation in China, they will be more interested to be more on the online bookings and something like this. But for 2nd and 3rd and 4th-tier cities, it's still very personal relationship. It's all still a locally negotiated contract where people are booking with.
But you have an interesting approach in terms of your relationship with...
We must have in the beginning, as I'm not Accor.
Sure,
And,
but I mean, in terms of how it manifests is that you're paying higher levels of commission than the other players to get more prominence.
That's the only way how I can beat my competitor. That to be on the first page of, when I'm going into the web page, I want to be on the first page, if it's possible, of course, in the first rank. It depends how much you give on commission. And if you're a gold member, or if you're a silver member, or you're a bronze member, and people always look first, what they see first, they're going to book maybe first. And then, of course, it always depends what kind of benefits you give the customers. So I believe the first-time customer who is coming over an OTA is very useful for us as well, but it depends in the end what kind of benefits does the OTA as well give to the customer. I, as a hotel group, can give totally different benefits. I can give as well, you have loyalty programs as well, you have your points, also working with the airlines together. But we, as Wanda Hotels and Resorts, we're going to be totally different again, as we have over 100 Wanda plazas in China. That means we have 100 shopping centers in China. And that is going to be similar how we're going to be presented in future as well in the world, in the key cities. We have cinemas in our shopping centers. We are the biggest cinema group in the world. We have karaokes. We have pedestrian streets. We have the office space around there. So I have so many benefits where I can work with my customers in future that they going to start to book over my own webpage. And we are just setting up an e-commerce company, our chairman, where we are working together with Tencent and with Baidu. And that means in future, we are also having our own booking system in the future. So we're going to be maybe one day like an Expedia or like a Booking.com. But of course, that is in the future. But we are investing billions also into the e-commerce company. So I believe there will be also, especially out of Asia and out of China, there will be more and more those kind of companies coming up who will be a threat for the companies who are already established in the market in Europe or in America.
We're about to dive into that area, but first I just want to tackle an area Vivek knows well, mobile, and just talk about the opportunities that presents. And one of the things at this ACCL Digital Day, which was at the end of last year, that came through was how much there's a new opportunity that presents itself with mobile. There's a chance for hoteliers to get ahead of the game rather than behind the curve as they have historically been. My challenge to you, though, Vivek, is in the level of investment that you're putting in as a company. So you announced back, was it December, at Digital Day, you announced 225 million euros going in over the next 5 years to be spent developing the whole online platform. Now, Cyril spends twice that every year just on technology. Now, my contention is that if you're spending effectively a tenth of what one of the major players are spending, how on earth are you ever going to catch up?
I mean, once again, what you need to compare is what is, the scope, the catalog that Cyril is building out to is obviously of another magnitude. What we are putting our money on is a set of pretty targeted developments that improve customer experience. The numbers we're putting on the table, I can compare them pretty happily to several other sectors which have had to build a relationship tool, a mobile relationship tool for their own business. Could be airports, could be railway companies, transportation companies. So for the money we have for the features that we wish to develop are fine and good. And we've been fortunate that the board, the management, and the whole teams have signed on to this challenge. There's another way to look at it. Okay, it's a quick and dirty math, but if you look at a standard non-digital company, manufacturing, a product company which has some level of service, the average IT to revenue spend is going to be sub 2%. It's 1.9 on average on, I believe, the non-tech FTSE 500, if I from memory, okay? Now, so and when you look at a tech company that is in the online distribution chain, you're talking double-digit R&D or IT and development to revenue. Now, if you take a hotel chain and you're looking at the part of our business that is relevant to the subject of distribution and relationship, well, obviously, it's not 100% of our business. I wouldn't be an IHIF if I didn't think that there was some money in real estate in the hotel and some money in doing the rooms, okay? So say for argument's sake that it's about 20% of your value chain that is spent on getting the customers in and linking them to you and your brands during your business. On that business, take 10% because that's a digital business. That's the real digital part of your business. What you're basically saying is you're moving from 1.9 to 4% worth of your revenue to get to that level where you have the digital interaction. And then suddenly the numbers look pretty reasonable. Okay?
Cyril, I'll come to you on this whole mobile platform point in terms of what you're building and what you're doing there. One of the big challenges I think the hoteliers have is that what you offer is pretty much a selection across the piece in terms of if you're going to Amsterdam, you're going to Moscow, you can look up on your apps and see a whole selection of hotels. The apps from Choice, the apps from Accor, I'm just going to see Accor or Choice, and that's it. So as a customer, what I'm going to want to do is to go with you again. So you're just in this increasingly dominant position.
Again, I think we're, as a customer, you'll come to us if you don't really know where you want to go, which type of hotel you want to go to. If you like the Accor experience or the Choice experience or the Wanda experience, you're going to go directly through their app. And then the question is, are they going to be able to make you repeat and repeat and repeat and have enough hotels everywhere in the world so that you have the same experience everywhere in the world? I think one thing that I would like to mention on mobile is there are two parts of mobile, and I think Vivek's strategy is very interesting because he's really attacking both, but putting a lot on the second one, which is the on-property experience. And there's one part which is from the dream of the destination to the booking, and then there's another part which is post-booking, on-site experience, and then post-stay experience. And that's where, as I think about it, that's where the hotels and the chains have a lot to invest in to really bring the guest experience to another level by staying connected with them, not in an intrusive way, but by offering more services and getting real feedback from the guest as they go through the experience. And the question for us is, how are we going to connect to this? So for smaller hotels, individual hotels, small chains, we're probably going to build the post-booking experience so that we can accompany our customers on their stay at the hotel, provide our hotel partners with real-time feedback from the customers. We already launched real-time reviews, which is a product that captures reviews from the customer at check-in, when they get to their room, throughout their experience, post-experience, and feeds that to the general manager, to the team at the hotel, so that they can address any problem as it is on property and not wait for a review to appear on TripAdvisor, which we all know takes a good 3 months to vanish. So we're going to provide services to our hotel partners to help them improve the experience for guests and also manage the perception, the satisfaction of their guests. The question I think that we'll have to discuss with our friends around the table is, are the chains going to build closed platforms only for their loyalty members, only for customers that book directly through their website, and provide online or provide mobile services only for these guests? Or are they going to build platforms that will be for their loyal guests and also for new customers coming from OTAs? So i.e., will we connect to the Accor and Choice system on our mobile, or will it be completely different experience and all the guests booking on Expedia will have a completely seamless mobile experience in an independent hotel, all the way time from booking to the checkout. And for the branded hotels, it'll stop at booking and then they'll go in darkness. So I think that these are the discussion that we're going to have with our chain partners. Do they want to open their investment in technology, the $225 million that Vivek is investing, to all customers, or limit them to only their loyal customers? And I don't think we have an answer yet.
Well, Carl, do you want to tackle that one? What you're developing with SkyTouch, in terms of you are making that open not just to Choice franchisees, but you're making that open across to any owner of hotels. They don't have to take a Choice brand.
No, that's right. I'd like first to just comment on Cyril's statement here. I agree with you that previously we've been focusing and putting a lot of energy, or maybe too much energy, on battling the OTAs, but also looking at only the transactional piece. Mm-hmm. And instead, we definitely need to look at the entire customer journey. So would we recommend our franchisees to get onto the new initiatives where you are in the heart of the customer journey, i.e. when our customers are at the hotel? Probably not, or maybe it depends. But the way I think we need to look at it is breaking the customer journey up in not multiple stages, but also different customer journeys. So one customer journey is the ones that book directly with us, and another one is the ones that book through the OTAs. And so again, I think we need to be able to look at this from a totality and look at where can you benefit or give us value and vice versa. Now in terms of SkyTouch and the technology, so we are, I guess Steve Joyce said on the panel today that we're more of a technology company rather than a hotel company. And so yes, that's one of our initiatives. Because we've seen huge success with the property management system that's cloud-based, and we're now looking at expanding that to other hotel companies.
But wouldn't
as well.
you use that as a competitive advantage to sell Choice brands and only make it available to Choice franchisees?
Oh yes, so that's a very big piece of our value proposition. So this Choice Advantage is definitely one of those technology enabler for the hotels. So Choice Advantage, and then we have multiple, we're looking at partnering with channel management companies and so forth. So.
But you don't have to take a Choice franchisee to buy into SkyTouch, do you?
No.
So my point is, what's the point of the Choice franchise in that context? Because if you can just get the technology without it, and to Cyril's point, if you're opening it up.
Okay, yeah, so again, I think that's just a very small part or piece of the value proposition. The other piece is that we're investing a lot of money in following what's happening in the distribution space and providing that knowledge and also the strength of a brand and the global leverage.
Okay. Ilya, I'd like to come to you in terms of what's happening in China with mobile right now, because I think we get quite complacent here in Europe and indeed in North America. We think we're at the cutting edge of technology, but already people are checking in with their mobile phones. They're booking and checking in and using their mobile phones as keys, aren't they?
Yes, that's true. The thing is, in China, I believe most people, the Chinese people, have never heard about Expedia, maybe. They haven't heard about, some of them know Booking.com and TravelClick, but as China have all their own booking engines, or they are working together with Expedia or with Priceline together, they are coming up very fast with their own new companies. As I just mentioned, our chairman is just now in the progress of, by end of this month, we're going to open our own e-commerce company as well. And I believe many of the people who are sitting here already know Alibaba. That is one of the biggest booking engines in China, and they have the tool called Taobao. And Taobao, for example, is a thing who is working with all the customers together, not only for room bookings, also during the Double 11 promotion, what they call it, what is on the 11th of November, where, for example, last year you could buy for 10,000 RMB, what is about 780 or 800 euro, you could buy 20 tickets, and you could use those tickets within the next 3 months, and you could fly in any destination in China. And they did the same thing where we went into a deal with Taobao in the same moment, and we sold buffet vouchers for our dinner buffets. And we made, on one day, only on selling buffet vouchers, we made about 1.8 million euro for 34 hotels, only in selling buffet vouchers. So you can see the digital generation is picking more and more up on those kind of things. We can see this for sure. But the people in China, I think that's also, maybe it's a bit of a topic what I cannot bring too much into the room here, but of course China is also blocking a lot of web pages which are from abroad and promoting their own web pages. And that is, if it is Baidu, if it is Taobao and so on. And so they are very successful because they have 1.3 billion people living in China. The new generation is growing up, the middle class is growing up, the people are getting richer and richer. Our payrolls are going up in the hotels. We can see what is the average salaries are going up. A department head, for example, used to make 20 years ago maybe $500 and nowadays a department head for a hotel can make $3,500. So you can see the spending power is going up, and the people, the young generations, they all have their smartphones. And what do you do with the smartphones? Of course, you want to play with it and you want to book with it, and you want to have benefits with it. And that is what they are so smart with. For example, you have the app what you are also playing with and what I'm also using by my own. It's a service, which one you can choose when you want to be driven home, because you maybe had a couple of glasses wine too much in the evening. So that means you have an app, you press the app, and you have a driver coming who's going to drive you home with your car. And those kind of things are still not existing, for example, here in Germany. Of course, you have Uber, or in Europe, you have Uber, which is then also copied by Didi Datsche, what is a taxi app. So you have taxi apps, you have all the apps coming up, and you have the hotel apps who are working with those kind of digital companies more and more together, if it is for your restaurants, if it is for your hotel rooms, if it is for your wedding. That means you can have a wedding bidding as well on the apps. That you have a special day, then when you are one of the first one, you can have a special wedding for a special price. And I think that is the future where we are already in China. Because wedding, again, is a big business, is a big market to make money, because in China, a wedding is at least 450 to 600 people each wedding. And people are spending a lot of money for it. Average, I make only on weddings each year millions, hundreds of millions of renminbi, because people are spending for it. So, and this is what we are, so all these digital companies are building into their apps and where they can make money with. So it is the future for sure. But I would like to go back again, what I fully agree as well is, in the end, it's all about what do we give the customer. If we want them to have them use our own web page in the end, and what kind of benefits we can offer, it's the customer experience in the hotels. And I think OTAs nowadays are very successful as well, because there are too many hotel brands in the market. And people who are not professional travelers, corporate travelers, who automatically normally have as well their signed RFP with the hotels, they will book automatically over the RFP webpage. But who are new travelers who are going over OTAs, they are, of course, the first time they will come to our hotel. So they can help us as a new and young group. But in the end, it's our job in the end to keep them with us and to make them booking with us again. And that is the customer experience. And I think we have to go back to this. And that is good for us as we are a new group. And when you come to China, try out our hotels and stay with Wanda Hotels and Resorts, and you have an experience what is an international standard, but with Chinese heritage.
Thank you, Elia. I'd like to just move on now to the sharing economy, and I'm going to come to your digital day again in terms of the characterization of the online world, and how Sebastian Bazin described it was in terms of, they broke it down into aggregators, innovators, and disruptors. So the aggregators were sort of the likes of TripAdvisor, the innovators were the likes of Expedia, and the disruptors were the Airbnbs. And Sebastian made quite strong reference to how he saw that as the biggest potential threat, the disruption. Obviously you agree. It's your boss. So explain to us why.
Yeah, I'd like to be back next year if you don't mind. It is a disruption because it's the one case, the previous waves of transformation, be it the online travel agents or the comparison sites, as I said earlier, impact only a portion of your value. They alter the way you distribute, they alter 20% of your business, but the room remains the room, the bed remains the bed, and the walls remain the walls. And that's what constitutes a big part of what you're trying to sell. And that means that digital, well used, can be an opportunity to enhance the rest. And there is enough in the physical world for us to build upon. And that was the logic that he showed, which was to say, to a large extent, it's the digital enhances the physical product. In the case of a collaborative economy, obviously that's not the case anymore, because the room is not the room anymore, the bed is not a bed that you spend money for. Basically, the product is provided at marginal cost. It's that extra room and as long as it's that, well, gosh, the world is made that way that you will always have in a sector people who are able to provide a service at marginal cost and hence are able to price it at marginal price. And that's life. So the first thing on the sharing economy is it should remain there, which means that when people start building buildings or subletting apartments that they've designed just for that, then you're out of the level playing field that we want. Now, but you will never be able to prevent an empty nester house from renting out those 2 bedrooms that are empty all year. Okay. It is a disruption. Over the last
day and a half, I haven't heard anyone voice a number around this disruption. And yesterday's panel was, Airbnb was present, and we had a good exchange on this. At this point, what they seem to say is that since their length of stay is double the average length of stay of hotels, the kind of customers that they catch don't completely overlap with the standard issue hotel customers. That is bound to change over time. So let's not think that, okay, that's fine, it's something else. But we are not seeing that hitting the numbers on, let's say, mainstream hotels on mainstream usage. But that said, it is sending us a very strong wake-up call. And I think it's sending a wake-up call actually to the brands. Because what you do see is that the hierarchy of benefits that customers perceive from their stays is changing. That's the signal we're getting. Yes, if whether be it a hotel room or an Airbnb stay, if the room's not clean, if the bed's not good, and if the people are not friendly, it's a non-starter. We all agree on that. But once you've gone beyond that, you start hearing stronger messages on the welcoming, the explanation around the hotel or around the location when it's Airbnb. You start reading more about decor, variety, local touch. And I think it does move the needle on the expectations of customers on standardization, a bit less decor standardization, a bit more local relevance. Yeah. And that's something that we need to onboard in our marketing. It means also that customers are not exactly excited by the administrative dimension of the check-in process. I think they'd rather talk about the restaurants around and the museum timings and the fun stuff and the bars that are around the location rather than did I use the right credit card and did I key in my frequent flyer numbers. So that's a signal to us. And I think that wake-up call drives us to work faster and harder on getting e-check-in in place so that when a customer comes into a hotel, he talks to a human being, not to the back of a computer screen. And it also means that in our product design, continuing to be globally consistent because that's a value, but at the same time being more locally relevant is something important. So that's what we take. That's the take we should have.
Let me give you a number on the level of this disruption. Vicky Stern, the leisure analyst at Barclays, she put out a note in January looking at, as she saw the growth of Airbnb. And she said in 2 to 3 years, on pretty conservative estimates on how she was looking at it, I think it's going to be quicker. But she said in 2 to 3 years, Airbnb is going to be selling the same number of room nights as IHG. So there's a creation of a global major hotel company from in less than a decade just coming up. And in terms of that supply level, I think that's going to be massively disruptive. Cyril, I'd like to come to you. It's a bit of a shock, isn't it, to have these sexy new young things in the technology world everyone's talking about. It's not you guys, it's not the OTAs anymore, it's Airbnb.
And their valuation is 2x ours. Yeah. So it's interesting. I was hearing Sébastien Bazin's last part of his speech this morning saying that the difference is that they're valued on traffic and number of properties, and then the hotel companies and Expedia also is valued on the bottom line. So I think there's still a bit of kind of 2000 hype type of sentiment here. So it's not clear exactly how profitable the model is. They're in a market which is very fragmented now. There's nobody who has really completely aggregated supply. Supply is kind of shared everywhere. So it's a market that is being rationalized now. It's hard to tell where it's going to land exactly. Now, as part of disruption, same as Vivek, we're not seeing in our numbers. I mean, we had a terrific 2014 years. Things are looking pretty good. The hotel industry is looking pretty good, pretty much everywhere in the world. So it's hard to see objectively in the numbers that there is displacement of demand to that segment. Now, I think as long as that there is, it is a type of product that introduces people to travel, especially people with families who would never book 3 hotel rooms in Center New York or Center Paris for 2 weeks for their family trip. It may actually turn out to be a good thing. Of course, there's going to be some of the hotel demand that's going to be displaced to that business. But I think to the extent that there is the creation of that additional new demand, which for the long run is a great source of new customers for the hotel industry, hopefully, it's the whole travel industry that will benefit, and the hotels will actually, be even on that transformation. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Airbnb selling hotels also, and if I may, I would just like to say that, of course, we're looking at them. We're actually partnering with HomeAway. We have about 150,000 properties from HomeAway that we're testing on our sites to see consumer reaction. But as when they start getting into the hotel business, I think I'll welcome them to the show and the expensive path to attracting customers, because they're going to have to go through the same thing as we do, which is contact the customers on pay for hotel keywords on Google, pay meta search and do brand marketing and all that stuff that we have to do to attract hotel customers. They're going to have to do the same thing. So I think the game will even out if they start to get into hotels, and if they stay on vacation rentals. I think Vivek had a really good point on the wake-up call for the hotel industry, because it's all about the experience, and at least every people I talk to about Airbnb, it's not the price, it's the experience that they're looking for.
Carl, I'm just interested in your thoughts on the sharing economy piece, but in particular, how much of a leverage do you think it's going to offer you as a hotelier if Airbnb are charging 3% commission rates? I mean, is that a stick that you can start using to beat Cyril with?
Well, I guess, again, it's looking at the entire distribution landscape and using the channels that are out there appropriately and where you need them. We don't see anything in our numbers either from Airbnb, but I think we need to look at them not as a threat, but looking at them and learning from them. And so we're actually also experimenting with putting some of our hotels on that channel. And we're really looking to see how that's going to turn out. But yes, I think Steve said that this morning as well. He said, I'd be more than happy to put out our hotels through that channel, and especially if it's only 3%. If that model continues, then for sure, yeah.
Okay. We've got just 5 minutes left, so I want to come out to the audience if there's questions straight down here at the front. There's a microphone coming.
I can probably just speak out.
Well, I think the people at the back.
For us, yes, but for the rest of the room.
Victoire's going to be here any moment with a microphone.
Yeah, I'm hardly an expert, but in my opinion, I think the value proposition, as long as price parity stays in place, is strongly on the OTA side. As a consumer, I definitely purchase all my rooms that way. As an investor, I'm always looking for value. So unless the brand owners can offer something more substantial, I'm not so loyal to any brand that I'm going to pay a significant premium to stay there. And I guess that's maybe why I'm maybe a decent investor. Now, my issue is that we're talking about winning and losing in the beginning, and I think you're both winning. And I think the investors are the ones that lose, because if someone books on Booking.com, both of you guys are making money, and my cost of distribution went significantly up. So I'm in a market, and all these prices are pegged in dollars, which is appreciating against almost every currency in the world. Where I do business, we've seen a massive devaluation. And so I'm paying a cost of distribution on my OTAs of about 35%. How do you make money that way? So anyway, that's my question.
That's a great question. Great question.
I don't know if it's a question as much of a statement, but I do see an unfair. I see an unfair issue that the brand owners are also getting money off the OTAs that are originating the reservations.
Yep, I hear that a lot from owners in terms of that. If you've got the system, they count it as system delivery as well, even if it's delivered through an OTA. It's
the brand owners are happy too. They're getting money for free.
Yeah. Okay. So no, they're not wanting to buy it, but we have a question there.
Tim Davis. I have a question probably for the hotel brands. A lot of conversation in the last 24 hours has been about focus on customer experience. And from my knowledge and understanding, one of the real challenges is the mass legacy technology that sits within the properties that is loosely connected to central systems. So basically brands understand how many reservations they deliver. They understand customer opinion because they do customer surveys, but everything about measuring brand delivery, everything about personalizing for customers in the hotel is a bit of a barrier because of this property-centric technology. What are the brands going to, or how do they think about that? Is it a problem, do you think, and is it something that you guys are trying to address?
No,
Well, obviously is it a challenge? Yes. Is the PMS industry the most modern and brilliant IT sector in the world? Probably not, because it's been there for a long time, so the legacy is there, and there's nothing wrong with that. The PMS makers seem to have understood that they needed to move towards more open interfaces, more cloud, more mobility tools, etc. And frankly, it's not the first and the last sector that will have some legacy software and IT in its delivery chain. You have banks which run on COBOL still, and they're able to do very complex transactions, even though the heart of their banking machine is probably 35 years old. So I wouldn't call. Yes, it's a challenge. Yes, it does slow things down, but does it make everything impossible? No. The airline industry has been managing a pretty dynamic selling model, even though some of the back office systems are pretty antiquated per se, by sheer nature of the passing of time. It's part of the job, I'd say. You are seeing more and more smart players who are putting tools above PMSs to extract the right data. Certainly it's one, if you look at the digital plan we've made it one of the big items, which is pretty much to extract Cardex type informations that allow us to strengthen our knowledge of the customer profile. So it's heavy lifting, but it's doable is what I'd say. And anyway, we don't have much choice because the replacement cycles of those tools are probably far broader than anything else we do.
Do you think Oracle's acquisition of Micros Fidelio is going to make a difference in this in terms of accelerating change?
I'm certain that Micros being owned by Oracle gives them, a lot of resource and technology. Now, frankly, the proof of the pudding is going to be in the eating, and the integration is, if at all, best started. So too early to say. Jury's out on that one.
Hey, Andrew, can I just comment on the previous question?
Oh, yeah.
It's a brand conference, so I have to be brand friendly, obviously. But I would say that it's we've got about 50% of our business coming from independents, 50% from brands, and a lot of the independent owners have decided to run their businesses independently of brands and just work with OTAs for their distribution. And I think it's totally feasible. We actually have some partners that are extremely successful with that model. It's just that you need a really, really good revenue management team, really, really good. So, you have to think whatever you pay to brands to do your distribution and put the flag on it, you'll have to have a really sophisticated investment in revenue management to make it work as an independent. So, it's an individual investor decision.
There's value on both sides.
Yeah.
I just don't get the ethical issue of having to pay the brand owners for the reservation at Expedia or Booking.com.
Yeah, usually they have a lower commission.
I get the fees for all of them.
Yeah, exactly. So they have a lower commission.
Actually, the best one, the cheapest of them all that I've seen. So, but
Got that? Yeah.
it's still a charge. So.
Carl, do you want to go back to the PMS thing?
Yeah, so comment on the legacy system. I definitely agree with you that it's a limitation for what we want to achieve. And I guess our initiatives in terms of the SkyTouch and the PMS that we're currently doing, which is cloud-based, shows that. But I also would say and agree that it's still feasible even though you have legacy systems. Just as an example, when you book direct a hotel in Miami, they let you borrow their green bikes, for example. And then, but also to the technology where we have some regions that now have mobile check-in and check-out, and that doesn't necessarily have to integrate with the legacy systems either. So there's definitely ways around that.
Okay, great.
But would both of you see the investment to work around this as being small, medium, or significant part of the total IT investment?
Medium, for lack of a better estimate. Yes, it would be low. Let me restate it otherwise. If these systems had been built in the last 2 years, meaning API-based, cloud-based, web services published with standards and stuff, it would be very low. and they're not that, so you need to spend some money. But software does magic too. Okay.
Thank you. Oleander Punto's Intelligence. I think one of the questions is, where does the brand start and where does it end? In the past, it was when you walked into the hotel door and when you came back out. Accor is now saying that they want to control it from the dream. It seems as though the OTAs have a better control of the experience of the brand because they care about how you get there and all of those things, and they track it. Now, assuming that the hotels can actually track and keep the customers and have the information on them, which is what you're proposing, the real question is whether it is time that hotels start thinking outside of the box, which is the hotel, and to think about the experience, which is a lot of it is outside of the hotel, and whether they should not start setting up strategic alliances with NGOs, with people who are into sustainable development, with theaters and with other things that would add things like local content and all of the stuff that customers want. Because as we saw with Tesla, people are more concerned not about just making money, but making a difference. And through that and those connections, not only will you create a better world, but you create a community of people who probably want to do the same thing, which is perhaps change the world. Now, the question for Expedia, are you going to buy
We're buying enough.
TripAdvisor, or is TripAdvisor going to buy you?
That's an interesting question. TripAdvisor used to belong to us, 3 years ago. So we spun it out. Well, it's a shareholder decision. It was probably a good decision, if I look at the returns. And then we already have Trivago, so we have a fairly good meta player. TripAdvisor is a meta player. That's what they are. So they're just one competitor in the meta space, and we're working with them just as we're working with Trivago and Kayak to reach out customers.
Yeah, please.
Comment on where the brand starts and ends, and I guess the appropriate question in terms of the theme and the title of this panel. And I would say that the value proposition for a brand, not only for franchisees but also for their customers, are kind of changing. So it's what you're alluding to too, is the dream and the entire experience, and that's our job is to create tools for our franchisees to manage that entire experience and looking outside of that box. So that's how the brand proposal, I guess, is changing.
Okay, any more? Or are we?
Well, I think we as a new brand, what we did for a unique experience for our customers is firstly that our hotels are all, for example, like you just mentioned, we are always surrounded by a Wanda Plaza. So that means you have your shopping, you have your cinema, you have your supermarkets, you have your pedestrian streets, and we implemented a couple of very unique things what other hotel groups do not have yet. For example, we have the Cha Journey, for also interesting not only for Chinese customers, also for foreign customers. That is the tea ceremony, what we are doing twice a day, what is totally unique, something new in the middle of the lobby. All our lobbies are minimum of 800 to 1,000 square meters and about 15 to 20 meters high. So that is the average of our Wanda hotels, which one we have 71 from now. And we have the Angels Welcome. The Angels Welcome is also something totally unique. What is a lady which one is trained in the cultural university, how to behave, how to welcome the guest, how to, for example, as a GSM service to bring the guest to the room, how to talk, how to move, and how to present, and all those kind of things, as it used to be 100 years or 150 years ago in China in the Empire time. We are having also another unique experience in our hotels. We don't have the Bible in our guest rooms. We have the Book of Li Qi. The Book of Li Qi talks about Chinese tradition and about Chinese history and how people should be behaving to each other and should be nice to each other. So I think these are a couple of unique things. And what we also build up, of course, in the digital thing is we have a Weibo and we have a WeChat. So, and this is always managed by our own hotel's marketing department, and then as well in the same moment by the restaurant department. And the WeChat is something what the customer can scan, and then you are a member of the WeChat or you're a member of the Weibo. So in this moment, when you're in this group, we are listening to the customer's comments. What is his brand experience? What is his experience in the Chinese restaurant? What is his experience of the bed? And we're going to go into those kind of experiences, and we are feeding back those kind of questions the customer have or what they think we should do in a different way. And we could see already now in the last 1.5 years since we are practicing this digital tool, an increase of returning customer, if it is for our F&B outlets, but also for the rooms outlets. So I think in the end, it's still, again, it's all about taking more care of the customer again. And what is our benefit is, I think Starwood and IHG, these are all very big brands, but they have too many brands. And that is what makes people confused, and that's why people go back to the OTA, because they're first going to look at the headlines, what is this writing about, and I'm going to stay for the time being, we're going to have maximum of 3 or 4 brands, not more, and that is going to be the future of Wander Hotels and Resorts. Otherwise, you confuse the people. What is actually all these brands, what do they stand for, and what is 5-star, what is 4-star, what is 3-star? I think a lot of people nowadays do not understand it anymore, and people also do not anymore know what means 5-star. 5-star in each country is defined in a different way. In Europe, 5-star means maybe a very special service. In China, and also in Asia, it means you must have a lobby, which has a minimum size of those kind of things. You must have a minimum of how many rooms, or you must have a swimming pool, you must have a gym, you must have at least so and so many TV channels. So 5-star is also always depends on, in every country is different. So what is 5, 4, and 3-star nowadays? I think we have to go back to this again, to the old history. What was a Grand Hotel? A Grand Hotel in the future was what? Where you had a beautiful room, where you had a butler, where you had great service, and where you had a great, beautiful, maybe Michelin star restaurant. But in our days, I believe 5-star hotels are totally different. And I think we have to go back again in the hotel industry to the old days, especially in the luxury travel service, to go back to take care of our customers more.
Okay, I think on that sort of back to the future, or future to the back point, I'd like to draw it to a close. Please, can you thank my panel?